Hey everyone, Akash here from the research team at Pure. I'm at Token 2049 Singapore and I'm here with...
My name is Ethan Lippman from Ebisu Finance.
And what does Ebisu Finance do for the non-technical folks?
Okay, so we're a DeFi protocol focused on unleashing the value of restaked collateral in DeFi. So restaking is this new primitive where people can stake their ETH or other assets as security for third-party networks. This is like unlocking tremendous trustless innovation for all blockchain apps. But there's an opportunity cost. When you put your capital in a restaking network, that means that capital cannot be used in DeFi. So we're taking advantage of liquid restaking and enable users to take loans or do yield farming strategies with their restaked collateral. The goal is to decrease the opportunity cost between providing security and farming DeFi yields.
And if someone collateralizes this restake token, what do they get? Do they get a stable coin? Do they get a derivative? What is the output there?
For sure. So the user flow is, let's say you have ETH, you restake it in Eigenlayer or Symbiotic, and you get a liquid restaking token in return. This liquid restaking token is pegged to ETH, and you can use that to open a loan on Ebisu. You can choose to borrow dollars or ETH-denominated credit against your LRT, and our whole job is to make sure that the loan is safe. So if there's anything that happens in the restaking world, it's not going to affect, you're not going to get liquidated effectively on your loan in Ebisu.
And how do you make sure that there is not no risk, but there's minimal risk? Is there some sort of security mechanism there to prevent rehypothecation in some way?
For sure. So yeah, you can't create something from nothing. There's no free lunch. We're sacrificing a little bit of capital efficiency to offer like a safety buffer. So what that means is our loans are all over-collateralized. You're posting, let's say, $2,000 of restaked collateral, you can maybe only borrow like $1,000 something of credit against that. And our whole thing is underwriting the AVS risk. So AVS is like a third-party protocol that is borrowing security through the restaking platform. And they're paying some yield in exchange for borrowing the security, but they're also adding a little bit of risk in the form of slashing conditions. So our job is to look at these liquid restaking tokens and seeing, okay, which AVSs are the liquid restaking tokens securing, and what are the attributable slashable faults that the operators working with the AVSs are subject to. We're underwriting that slashing risk, and we use that risk level to parameterize the loan. So the more risky LRTs that work with the more risky AVSs will be able to borrow at a lower LTV on Ebisu, versus the more blue chip LRTs that are working with the more blue chip AVSs will be able to borrow more capital efficiently. And the reason for that is, in the case of a slashing, we don't want AVS slashing to lead to liquidation on Ebisu. It's a little bit technically dense, but the whole goal is just to protect the borrower, so the loan is safe.
That is technically dense, but it is useful for a restaker, an individual or someone who's using a liquid restaking derivative to get access to yield as well as a token like a stable coin that they can use for other DeFi activities. So can you speak a little bit more about how the supply side, the user who provides the capital which is eventually restaked and collateralized, how do they get access to either yield or any DeFi native activities?
So the basic principle is restaking should offer incremental yield on top of ETH staking. You're securing Ethereum beacon chain and also these AVSs, and the AVSs should pay you more yield. So the primary use case, or one of the primary use cases, is if you want to lever up your exposure to this AVS yield, you can deposit LRT and borrow EBETH, synthetic ETH against that. The LTV is pretty nice because the collateral is ETH and the credit is ETH, so you can lever up and loop these AVS yields. So that's one incentive for the borrower. But what if the borrower wants to farm stablecoin yields instead? Historically on-chain, providing liquidity into stablecoin pairs has been pretty lucrative. So in that case, you can collateralize the loan with LRT, which is ETH denominated, and borrow EBUSD, which is dollar denominated. And you can put it in different DeFi pools or different DeFi protocols to farm some extra APY that way.
Interesting. And beyond just accessing yield, is there any other financial product that you're building on top of Ebisu, which gives people access to either more yield, security, some DeFi primitive activities? Is there anything else beyond that?
For sure. So the type of stablecoin we're building is a CDP. It's a collateralized debt position where the collateral, it's like an over-collateralized loan. So one use case, like the main use case I mentioned, is like this kind of borrowing use case where users are taking leverage. But the end goal for a stablecoin is that the stablecoin itself is useful as a store of value or as a way to send payments. So that's the end goal. The end goal is to have enough supply of the stablecoin such that even if you don't want to take a loan, you can still buy the stablecoin on the spot market and use it for DeFi. That's one goal. And when you mention like derivatives or secondary products on top of that, we're working on Ebisu Earn. So it's a yield vault that allows you to get diversified restaking yield exposure. So right now we're in a weird spot of restaking. AVSs have yet to demonstrate tremendous revenue generating potential, which means that the yield paid out to restakers by AVSs is not really substantial right now. So in the meantime, everyone from LRTs to restaking platforms wants TVL to be retained in the system. So we're helping doing that by having a yield vault that helps allocate your LRT across different DeFi opportunities so you can earn some real yield from DeFi on top of the ETH staking yield. So that would be from, let's say, an automated way to provide liquidity into LRT DEX pairs, an automated way to provide liquidity into lending markets like Aave that support LRT collateral, putting LRTs into Pendle for extra yield. It's like the yield is not coming from AVSs, but it's coming from real yield through DeFi, and that's another product we're pushing. So you give me LRT, and I'll help you allocate it dynamically across these different DeFi opportunities, and ideally earn you some real like ETH-denominated yield. In the meantime, while AVSs are kicking up their activity, and one of like the more cool features we're enabling is this vault share can be used as collateral for loans on the Ebisu CDP protocol. So yeah, you're going to be able to park your LRT in the vault, earn extra yield, and then borrow against that vault position as well. Obviously, the LTV for this loan, we're going to come out with it. We're going to make sure it's safe, but that's one of the derivatives that we're interested in pushing.
You move this money around, thereby taking some sort of risk within it, but the user gets access to a little bit more yield, and of course it's safer yield because it's over-collateralized. You move it around to make sure that the AVS, when it's risky, the money is not with them.
Yeah, the vault is a little bit of a different product. So it's mainly, we're moving around LRTs to different DeFi protocols. Yeah, it involves less about the AVS side and more about DeFi yield side. So let's say there's a lot of borrowing demand for a certain LRT on Aave on one day. The vault will automatically rebalance to direct liquidity to the Aave market, such that the user can farm the supply, like the yield for liquidity provision. Let's say there's more demand for DEX swapping on one day for EtherFi LRT. We will like allocate more liquidity to the Uniswap EtherFi pool, and you can earn more swap fees. And this model is like rebalanced daily to ensure the best yields.
Got it. And what's sort of your biggest focus area in the next 6 months for 2024 at least?
For sure. So Ebisu Money is our CDP protocol that lets you borrow EBETH or EBUSD, and it's live on testnet right now. So you can go try it out, get familiar with the interface, and we're launching on mainnet ideally by the end of the year. So to be announced, we have some interesting launch partners lined up who we're collaborating with to make EBUSD and EBETH well adopted across DeFi. So yeah, stay tuned for some announcements of launch partners. And we're also going to be working with all the major LRTs. So even the long tail LRTs, we're going to enable you to get liquidity against those.
Awesome. It's been a great pleasure learning about Ebisu from you, Ethan. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day here.
Thank you, sir.